Welcome to the channel. This is going to be um, my review or opinion thoughts after watching episode 3 of The Acolyte. I've already done episode 1 and 2 of the new series. It's an okay, but not great. Lots of holes and logic in it, and not particularly well written, but it is Star Wars, so I'm always interested in stuff Star Wars, even though I'm not a great fanboy or anything like that, but I always enjoyed the Star Wars. So, this episode, what is it? Well, it's more background and towards the main characters, the two twins that are seen in episode 1 and 2, and also it shows the four Jedi that the one evil twin is trying to hunt down and kill. Um, doesn't really explain why the evil twin decides that she has to kill them, other than they separate the two girls, the two twins. So, this episode starts off on a planet. You see the two twins, they're sitting under a tree, and the one twin is just sitting there and apparently likes to go off on their own because the other one yells at them, "Why are you always going off on your own?" Okay. The other twin, you see that they're both force sensitive, which would explain why that Jedi might be interested in them. And the other twin, you do see that they're much more aggressive. They can both use the force. The other one's twin is much more aggressive in how they use the force. You could say that's being mean or whatever, because they do. The one evil twin does grab some sort of little butterfly thing and force it to stay in place. But anyways, they argue some more, and one of their parents um, basically comes and takes them back because there's supposed to be some ceremony where they're going to join the witches, and that you can see on the screen. So I've heard lots of comments, people talking about episode 3 breaking Star Wars, but then um, I listened to a guy who has a bit more depth in the Star Wars universe than I did, and his thoughts were it doesn't actually break it, it actually ties in to a lot of the books and stuff around the Old Republic and the previous history of the Jedi and stuff. Problem is, nobody knows this stuff except for deep, deep fans. So much of what you see on the screen and in the episode is kind of means nothing to you, or it's so obscure that it makes no sense to you. Didn't make any sense to me. But there's these group of women, and they call themselves witches, so they're witches, and they have moved to this planet, and they talk about being persecuted and hunted and stuff like that. So, in the context of the TV show, you don't really know what to say about that because you don't see any evidence of that. But again, if you jump outside these shows, um, and again, it's part of the problem with a lot of these Star Wars series that they conveniently jump off the show where, unless you're a massive fan, you're not going to understand what's going on. But basically, what they're the witches are obviously Force users. Um, they simply have a different explanation of how the Force works than everybody else's, and people are getting upset about that. And it's like, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, I'm a Christian. There's many different elements to Christianity. Not everyone uses exactly the same terms to describe it. If you want to encompass other religions, then there's many different religions, and they all look at things differently and have different takes on things, and they often you could say compete against each other, but they've often tried to wipe each other out. So, based on some of the books of the Old Republic, basically there was sort of there was various Force users, and we saw, if you saw the Ahsoka series, there was a group of witches there that had that were tied to the Force and used it in a certain way. They tended to um, be towards the dark side, and that's the problem again with these series. If unless you watch the cartoon Clone Wars, you wouldn't have all the history on some of this other witch group that you saw in Ahsoka TV series, and the fact that they fought with different elements, and so that's what they're talking about. The women in this covenant of witches talks about being hunted, persecuted, hunted down, destroyed, was something that actually happened in the history of Star Wars, in that certain elements, including the Sith, wanted to wipe out any other type of Force users, and often did. So that's why these witches have disappeared into their planet. And um, basically, they created the girls, the twins, using probably what was um, dark Force powers, which is something, hey, it happened in the Star Wars movie with Palpatine returning at the end of that series and talking about cloning and all that stuff. Well, that's probably what happened to these witches when they were able to um, create the girls. What their fear comes from is that, they're not supposed to be doing that, and they're concerned of what's going to happen if somebody finds out that they've been doing this cloning stuff and whatever. So I'm not trying to apologize for how this series is. I'm just sort of giving you some background and thoughts that it's not as simple as some people seem to want to paint this. It's just bad and it's destroying Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. My thoughts is that it depends on a knowledge of Star Wars that most people watching the show don't have, and so it creates confusion, or people are less interested in watching it. But anyways, they go to have their ceremony and induct the girls into their covenant of witches, and unfortunately the Jedi show up. Don't know how, but they show up, and of course it's the four that are being hunted. So that's why you see that, okay, that's why the bad twin is hunting them down. And they simply want to do what I guess Jedi do, which is take Force sensitive kids away for training as knights. Now, that also has been sort of hinted on, maybe not the best thing in some of the other Star Wars materials, but anyways, the women were going to fight, but the woman picture on the screen, which is head of the group of witches, basically, no, it's that the one good twin has the right to determine her own destiny, and everybody else kind of wants to, keep her attached to the group of witches, don't want to let her go, all this stuff, especially the other twin, almost in a psychotic fashion, which might explain why she's the evil twin. Anyways, so they agree to be tested by the Jedi, except for they come up with a plan that, hey, if they flunk the test, then the Jedi will go away. So the evil twin May decides she'll do that and gets the good twin to promise to do so, but the good twin actually kind of wants to step outside this planet, this group of witches, and do more. So I don't think she has any idea what a Jedi is, but decides that she wants to be one, which is something that kids would often do. But um, anyways, she doesn't flunk the test. They sort of ignore her trying to flunk it, and then they get the right story out of her, which is, again, sort of there's sort of painting that the Jedi feed into this element that I'm talking about, which is the Jedi themselves did not want other people to use the Force, and maybe actively um, try to discourage it, or even basically potentially in the past eliminated people, other Force users. Maybe not unjustified, because there were people that actually hunted Jedi at one time and tried to destroy them. So self-preservation, eh? But anyways, the good twin more or less agrees that she's gonna go away with the Jedi, and the bad twin freaks out, starts a fire, destroys the whole building that they're or fortress that all the witches are in, and at one point the bad twin appears to be killed, but we know that she isn't, and the Jedi save the good twin and go to take her away in kind of a creepy fashion. The Squid Games Jedi seems to be to me a little bit too attached to the good twin, but anyways, that's beside the point. But you see as they're leaving, all the witches dead. Now, there's some thought that it wasn't necessarily the fire that killed them, but they did a Branch Davidian thing and swallowed poison and killed themselves because of the girls leaving and the Jedi discovering where they are and that kind of stuff. So it's not really shown in the episode. It's simply you see bodies all over, and next you see them on the starship taking the good twin away to Coruscant to train them. So it's an episode that on the surface looks to be somewhat boring because they're talking about a bunch of stuff that you don't really know what they're talking about unless you're a big fan. There's no action per se in it. It does fill in some background, but like I say, one of the big problems with a lot of the Star Wars properties, and maybe if you watch Dune and you didn't read the books or understand it, you would be confused too. But there's more to the episode than appears in the show. I have to, much as I don't like the producer Headland, um, it does appear that there is somebody doing some homework or trying to tie in the whole goddamn Star Wars universe into this one TV show and potentially this one episode. So there's no real indication now. Of course, you fanatics of Star Wars probably can tell all kinds of things based on rings and face colorings and all that kind of stuff. More than what I'm describing of, but yeah, it's a fairly slow-paced episode, lots of background, but not enough background, and I don't know how they would actually, you know, introduce books and books and books of material based on the Old Republic and the early days of the Force and stuff like that. But it does progress the show forward. You do see how the good twin got separated and goes to study being a Jedi, and you see how the bad twin blames the Jedi and wants to exterminate them. Although the reasoning doesn't seem to be, there must be more than simply they took her sister away, because that doesn't really justify what they want to do. So, all in all, it's another okay episode. Not great, lots of plot holes in it, and way too much dependency on knowledge of the Star Wars universe. I didn't particularly care for the child actors that they have portraying. If it's two, it does look like it's maybe two different girls that are similar in appearance. Um, but they're just pure annoying in it. Some of the actresses that are in the Witches thing, there's not too much for them to say. Really, it's the two main witches that have conceived through potentially dark side of the Force. The girls that have most of the speaking in this show, and everything's focused around them. But as it stands, as standalone, it's not very good because you don't understand what's going on necessarily, or there's so much going on outside of the episode that it's no good. If you don't know that stuff, but it does progress it forward. So now we sort of have an understanding of the twins and what's their motivational part, and we'll go on from there. So, not a great episode. Somewhat interesting. Kind of disappointing in that you're looking to get into more of the Jedi stuff and the Sith stuff, and this is just filler. But not horrible like some people are trying to suggest. Does not break Star Wars. It's simply a different interpretation of it, which is very realistic in our world, let alone their Star Wars universe. And and that's it. So that's my opinion. Just watch it and move on to episode 4. Thanks.